right, so we finally see that the New York Times is declaring that the deep state actually does exist. And according to their opinion video and article, it's actually kind of awesome. I saw that headline and I couldn't help but press play, so we're going to watch it together. Just a quick second of it.
I will totally obliterate the deep state.
Hope so.
I will fire.
Donald Trump is obsessed with the deep state.
The deep state, the deep state is destroying our nation. Either the deep state destroys America or we destroy the deep state.
And many Republicans are widening his paranoia.
These unelected bureaucrats ruining this country.
From a cabal of security agents to
The sick political class that hates our country.
if elected, Trump's vowed to gut the federal government.
Reinstate the Schedule F executive order and, quote, fire rogue bureaucrats.
But who are these bureaucrats and what makes them so dangerous?
Okay, I'm just going to stop it right there because the whole premise of this video and article is to highlight Schedule F, which was a policy that the White House churned out in 2020 during President Trump's presidency. And clearly this is to put in the scope of, hey, these are real people and they ought to keep their jobs. But at the end of the day, before I even do a full deep dive on and supporting what I'm just about to say right now, if you don't do your job, you get fired. And we all know before Trump was actually president that his famous words were, "You're fired." So Schedule F is just the you fired policy. And we can take a look right here, trumpwhitehouse.archives.gov, okay? Oh, I got a dog here. That's fine. We're just barking away. The dog is barking. The federal government, there's this executive order on creating Schedule F in the accepted service. So all in all, this would mean that the federal government benefits from career professionals in positions that are not normally subject to change. Now, I used to work at the White House. I actually started in White House IT, and I was actually in a position where I was not to be removed. I was unaffected by any administration, whether it was Democrat or Republican. My job stayed intact no matter what. So much so that I actually worked during the Obama administration in White House IT. I was there during the actual inauguration, continuing my duties in the tech space, and I stayed during the Trump administration. So yeah, it's people like me, right? Keep them. You like them? Maybe you like me. I don't know. But if you like them, you want us to stay, right? If we do a good job, you want us to stay. But if we're not doing a good job, why should I be able to come in, get full government benefits, have you as the taxpayer pay my salary, and not have a care in the world and just watch like TikTok videos all day at my desk? It's not what I was doing. I was a very good employee. Your tax dollars were not wasted at all. But I digress. So this policy, right, it's very scary. I mean, everybody just feels bad that we're going to fire people if they don't do their job. But here, I'm going to read to you part of the executive order. So again, as a result of presidential transition, people would be discharged from their significant duties and exercise significant discretion in formulating and implementing executive branch policy and programs under the law of the United States, who discharge significant duties and exercise significant discretion in formulating and implementing executive branch policy and programs under the laws of the United States. The heads of executive departments and agencies and the American people also entrust these career professionals with non-public information that must be kept confidential. We hear about leaks all the time. No one gets in trouble. I remember actually even being at the White House during the Trump administration, and there were some folks in, I think it was Office of Records Management. They actually came to CNN and had a big bag of papers that were shredded and said that President Trump shredded these papers. And just to give a little backstory, records management is exactly what they say they are. They take all of the documents and they manage into records, and fall in compliance with the PRA, the Presidential Records Act, and with National Archives. So these folks who were there, not subject to Schedule F at all, people that are retained no matter their political affiliation from administration to administration. So they worked during Obama, they are working during Trump. Oh, but now, we see this new craze of, if someone's not in line with my politics, then they're evil. So, these guys definitely had that perception that Trump was so evil. And they thought in taking these shredded papers and pretending that Trump shredded all of these records that were supposed to be going to records management, and basically just made like a whole story up on CNN. It actually, to CNN's credit to a degree, that story ran flat. They were live on television. I remember watching them on TV and knowing those guys. And then I thought they were really nice when I met them in person. And then I saw them on TV just going buck wild over President Trump. So anyway, Schedule F could take it a step further and remove people that on that day that they're going to CNN, your tax dollars were going towards someone wanting just to get 30 seconds of fame online. So there's that. Now that we know what Schedule F is, I will move away from the executive order that I'm reading off of. We see the opinion piece. The interesting part of this opinion piece is that we were told nonstop that the deep state actually didn't exist, right? That I'm going to say we, because I imagine if you're watching this, you probably see it the same way I do, that yes, there are forces that don't want good for America. I think that's pretty fair to say, considering that we have the internet and anyone can post anything. I see a lot of bad things. I'm sure you do too. So here we are. The New York Times says that when we hear deep state, instead of recoiling, we should rally. We should think about the workers otherwise known as public servants, and they should be seen as what they say here in the article, the everyday superheroes who wake up ready to dictate their careers and their lives to serving us. So, not lost on me that the New York Times is saying, yes, the deep state exists. Very much lost on me that we're saying just because you're a government employee, you're now deemed a superhero. I've never had a more secure job in my life than working for the White House. I had great benefits. It did not matter if the government shut down, back pay, health insurance, freedom of movement. I could say personally, I've worked in the IT department. I've worked in the First Lady's office, event planning. I've worked on legislation. I've bounced back and forth between Capitol Hill and the White House on a near daily basis. And I say that not to toot my own horn at all, because basically I'm kind of clowning on government workers, right? I'm saying as a young person, I'm only getting older, as a young person, I was surrounded by people, the superheroes that have been in government their whole lives. How is this any different than on Capitol Hill? Term limits, we hear it all the time. Nancy Pelosi, her whole life has been in government. The whole movement, the whole conservative movement, and even if you're not conservative, like the libertarian mindset is to not have this government control, this entity, to have all these people in the works that have been here forever just running amok, making the decisions. So I was around tons of people who just didn't show up to work, clocked in and out, doing no work, or hanging out with their friends. There was TVs on all the time. People are just watching TV, having work lunches. What are you really doing? I didn't see much. So President Trump recognizes pretty quickly. And so 3 months before the end of his presidency, he issued Executive Order 13957, okay? This would convert the federal service into a new classification. So we got that. This was weeks before the 2020 election, right? Immediately after, so I'm on Brookings right now, immediately after President Biden rescinded the order, and that was it. What's interesting is if you actually hit the Googler up real quick and you want to know what are the chances of being removed as a federal government employee, the numbers ain't good. So if you don't love Schedule F, fine. F is for fine. Schedule F, you don't like it, fine. Does there need to be some sort of change in how we have government employees on board into government for basically a lifetime sentence? 1,000%. So I like Schedule F. If you don't like it, fine. But I'll give you some numbers that might make you change your mind. So I get rid of these ads. Alrighty. Let's see. 4,000 of 1.6 million government workers lost their jobs in recent years. 4,000 out of 1.6 million. That is a very small number, okay? I ain't into statistics, but I even know that that's so low that I could tell you it's just 1%. That is 1% of the population of government workers in these positions. Okay? And for those who are dismissed from their actual jobs in the government, they usually get back into the government, okay? In some other capacity, but still a government job. And this is through the work of an arbitrator. This could be in local government, state government. This could also be like on a government contract. The American First Policy Institute was the one that actually reported that over 50% of over 50% resume their roles after being let go. And they usually get back pay. The craziest number that I saw, let me get there. Hey, yo. In fact, the Washington Business Journal reported that it can take up to 370 days. That's more than a year. More than a year for any federal employee to be fired. And that this is because there's strict protocol with several key steps before dismissing a worker. It includes monitoring performance and providing feedback, documenting instances and bringing in other departments, a mandatory probationary period, and drafting up dismissal paperwork that has to be signed off. So think about that whole process. Does it surprise you that it takes over a year? It probably shouldn't, right? Because these people who are probably handling the paperwork have also been in the government their whole lives. And the reason that it's fun to work in the government is that it's slow. No one's checking up on you. No one wants to remove anyone. That requires effort. That requires work. So there's that. Biden's inflation. So rolling back really quick. Biden thinks that this was a bad idea, wants to protect the superheroes of our nation. But his response is to cancel that executive order and then go ahead and sign a $739 billion Inflation Reduction Act with $80 billion in funding being directed towards the IRS over the next 10 years. More than $45 billion of those funds are going towards enforcement to help close an estimated $600 billion tax gap, which is the difference between what Americans owe and what they pay. So I'm paying more in taxes for more government employees that are never going to leave. And then by default, at the end of the year, I also have to pay more again. This is the state that we're in. Okay, so in conclusion, if you don't like Schedule F, fine. I'd prefer for people to get fired when they don't do their job. The New York Times agrees that there's a deep state. They actually like it. They must have some sort of deal where they just get employed. There's some sort of media deal where they're just guaranteed to have people in the government as like their sources so that they can churn out more articles. Like there has to be some sort of like quid pro quo. That's how you say it. Something like that. That's the only way that I can justify this. But yeah, this is something that you ought to know. Be surprised. Tell your friends. The deep state is actually real. And even the New York Times agrees with it. And all I got to just say is one more shameless plug. While I worked in the government, I did have a coworker who clipped his nails all over his keyboard. Okay. So, and took lots of naps just sitting in his chair. And he was there for 30 years. You wonder why I got out of government work. I'm not trying to waste any taxpayer dollars. Actually, I probably should just get back in because then your taxpayer dollars do not go to waste. Because I was a psycho and I did a lot of work. But not my coworker. Just a lot of nail clippings. Anyway, let me hear what your thoughts are on Schedule F. Are you for it? Is it fine? Is it not? Are people fired? You let me know. That's all I got. I think that's it. I don't know how long that was. Oh, 15 minutes? That's better than the 30 minutes I did last time.